Yesterday I cold stratified some Swedes, or in Scotland they're called neeps, yellow turnips if you like, and some white turnip. So this one is a dark brown. It's quite a small pencil. It shrunk considerably. I suppose that's to keep the price down, and I'm hoping you're going to probably buy more. This is cold tea. And then you've got the beach. There's the Blackpool Tower, or the Dirty Bird. I call Blackpool the Dirty Bird of the North. This is the main theme Interstellar. It's quite tricky. It's really an orchestral works, but of course this has been scored for piano. Grande Rising everybody, welcome back to my channel. Although here now it's late afternoon, but wherever you are, whatever time of day you're watching from, a very warm welcome. Today I am here to show you a few more things in my new to me series, which is hosted by at Kimmy's Kitchen and More. Anyone can join in. It's an open collab. All you need to do is somewhere in the description and or the title write hashtag new to me, hashtag open collab. Anyway, let's look at the first thing. I want to talk about a few things as well. I've actually made some notes so I don't forget anything. The first thing I want to show you is some seeds. Dan and I have had a reasonably buoyant growing season, although because of the heat, as that Travel with Taz pointed out, the potatoes haven't done as well as normal because of the lack of moisture in the ground. We've had a lot less rain this year, but we've had some smashing tomatoes and fennel and all manner of other goodies. We've got some mashed potato squash that are doing well. They look like white rugby balls. I think they're an American variety, correct me if I'm wrong. You bake them in the oven and then mash them with butter, salt, pepper, and it's like mashed potatoes, but it tastes a little bit like a sweet potato. It's lower on the glycemic index, which is the main thing. Anyway, Dan and I had one the other week and it was really tasty. He thought it was very similar to a potato, although the texture and the taste was just a slightly different one. But nonetheless, it was excellent. Well, we've got loads of those coming. And the sweet potatoes seem to be doing really well that we planted out earlier in the year. And I'm actually going to be making up another batch of yeast fertiliser. Krista has a good method. So go along and have a look at her channel and see how she does the yeast fertiliser, because I'm sure she would explain it a lot better than I. So now we're thinking about autumn and winter planting. So we've got some stuff for Christmas and going into the early new year and the spring. So I've been doing some cold stratification and we've planted some seeds out already. So the parsnips have gone in and some radishes. Also a trough of cotton come again lettuces, and they're coming through already. And now yesterday I cold stratified some Swedes, or in Scotland they're called neeps, yellow turnips if you like, and some white turnip and some broccoli. This one is a superfood type, the genuine superfood broccoli. Now this one is called Beneforte F1. Now if you know any Italian, this would translate to robust. You've got forte, which is loud or strong, and bene, which is good. And that's why it would translate to robust. All these you can overwinter. We do use fleece as well, should the need arise, and it also helps to protect the veggies from garden pests, which, especially in our climate, we have a very wet winter usually here in Thanet, is especially problematic because we get a lot of slugs and snails. We treat them humanely with organic stuff. We don't use chemicals. Hopefully, therefore, we can get our kitchen garden working for us effectively all year round. This last winter we had cabbages. They overwintered. They were tremendous. They were bigger than footballs. They were massive. And the year before we had kale, and we were having to give it away. We had so much we couldn't keep up with it. This time we're doing a variety of different veggies, and we'll see what happens. Everything's an experiment. If you don't try, you'll never know. If you want to find out more about my gardening, you can hop over to my other channel, my main channel, which is at Cat Evans Cuisine, and you'll find quite a few gardening videos in my vault. Here in the UK, as with many other places, the food bills are continuing to rise substantially, and every penny counts. So we're trying to be as self-sufficient as possible. The 3 cats we have, their insurance has gone up to £300 a calendar month, up from 200, which is a huge rise, a third. So we're trying to find another supplier for at least one of the cats for the cat insurance, and that will probably be Merlin. He's been to the vets today for his checkup. As you know, he's in remission with his diabetes and he's doing really well. He's lost another 100 grams, so he's down to exactly 7.9 kilos. And sometimes Dan and I have a little competition, guess the weight of the kitty, and I was spot on. I often am. So it was good to know that I'm able to guess the weight of our big tiger boy. The next thing I want to show you is some makeup. Now, as you know, I do Avon, and after so long, they've brought back the ColorTrend range. I think this is probably because of the cost of living. ColorTrend was always the budget range of makeup. It was usually on a par with Rimmel, and it had very simple packaging. Well, that's no different now. This is called Get Glowing. This is a cream blusher stick that you just run over the apples of your cheeks, or however you like to use your blusher. And I've also got a brow definer. This is very, very simple packaging. So let's give this a try and see what it's like. So this one is a dark brown. It's quite a small pencil. It shrunk considerably. I suppose that's to keep the price down, and they're hoping you're going to probably buy more. But I've got brown black hair really. My face is clean. I do have some of my BB foundation cream on that I showed you recently with the SPF. We've been having very warm weather again the last few days. I don't often like to put a lot of makeup on because I get very hot and I can feel it sliding down the face quite often. But that looks good. That's a really good shade. I really like that. Very nice. Might be a small pencil, but it goes on really well. And you can put it in a small purse as well, which I suppose is good for travelling. Now, I've been doing Avon for 14 years now, and I have to say it's changed a lot since I first started doing it. I've seen it through highs and lows, and I've had difficult times. I've managed to keep it going through all kinds of personal stuff going on in the 14 years I've been doing it. I'm not saying I enjoy doing Avon as much as I used to, but that's nothing to do with the customers. I love my customers and I love the products, but it's just the way things have changed within the organisation. It's like a lot of global businesses. Things often tend to work more towards the global business rather than the representative or the employee. As a rep, of course, I'm self-employed, but things have changed to the degree that none of us find it as easy to make money and keep things going or enjoy as many perks as we once did, despite, especially those with sales teams as well, having to put in a lot of hours, and people with a lot of customers. You know, we all have to factor these into our day, and although it's something that we can do around our lifestyle, it's not necessarily as simple as that. But I've been using Avon for nearly 50 years, and I expect I will continue to do so for as long as my customers want me anyway. This is a beautiful shade. This one is called Flirty Pink. They have two pink ones. There's this one and a slightly darker one. So let's have a look at this. I would say put a little on and then blend it in. Try and get them looking the same. You may find it easy with a sponge. As usual, I haven't got one to hand, but that is really nice. Considering I'm these days on the darker side of fair, more nude, I suppose, than ivory, I think that's pretty good. It's nice, it's got a nice light glow to it. And although it's a nice summer shade, you would get away with it in the autumn and winter as well. Me being me, I would probably do a slightly summery vibe makeup palette even in the autumn and winter to try and bring some sunshine into my everyday life. But I think that's pretty nice. I'm very happy with that. Anyway, I'm very glad they brought the ColorTrends back because they were very popular, and I have no idea why they stopped doing them for so long. And remember, of course, with all this rebranding that Avon seemed to do and bringing things out, of course, the expenses of that are tax deductible, so it's a good way of saving money on taxes. And we do know that large global organisations do like to take advantage of those tax deductions and any loopholes that may be available to them. Well, before we look at the next thing, let's have a little chat again about one or two things. I have here some winter fruits tea. It's basically loose leaf tea, hibiscus, apple, cinnamon, that sort of thing. And it's perfect cold on a lovely warm day at the end of summer. And indeed, I've been drinking it on warm days in the middle of summer as well. Very pleasant it is too. Makes a nice change from a normal cup of tea or a hot drink. So on Sunday, Dan and I did the Ramsgate Handmade Fair down by the harbour. All day on Sunday, there didn't seem to be as high a footfall as what we usually see out and about on a Sunday. But Dan and I met some nice people, and it was interesting that we seemed to attract those with a higher vibration. We had quite a range of people come to the stall. As before, we had quite a few children who were interested in the crystal items. I sold a beeswax bread wrap to a German lady, and her friend, who was also German, bought a pearl bracelet. And there was a little boy who wanted a shark's tooth pendant, so his dad got him that. And I sold a rose quartz necklace to, I think she was a Greek lady, really nice. She was there with her mum, and she had this beautiful green, olive green top on, and these beads were quite pale pink and almost translucent, and they really look lovely against olive skin. Well, she bought those and she was very happy, and we talked to a few other people as well. So although it wasn't a brilliant day in terms of sales, it was okay. We were concerned at first that we might not sell anything, but we did. But it was probably the afternoon before we made any sales. I said we seem to attract those with a higher vibrational frequency rather than the collective. Anyway, on Sunday in the UK, there was this emergency alert. Now, Dan and I think a lot of people had turned off their emergency alerts. This is one of those things, if you like, it's almost doom peddling. It's there to warn people that something's happening, some event. I don't really know why they're testing them. I think this one's supposed to be to do with climate, although there is climate change that is natural over hundreds or thousands of years. And I would argue that the net zero agenda is not all it's cracked up to be either. And that's all I'll say there. But I'm sure you know what I mean and can read between the lines. Anyway, we turned our alarms off. There was no way we were going to take part in the exercise. And a few alarms did go off, mainly across the street outside the bars and the restaurants and the cafes. But most people, certainly at the fair, didn't get any alarms. There were some people who hadn't turned the alarms off and didn't get them at all anyway. So I don't think it was working as maybe it was expected to. But I just kind of got a vision of, I suppose, a very kind of sci-fi plot where an alarm would go off on your phone and your eyes would go woo, 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 and they'd hear a voice in the ear because of the microchip that had been implanted, giving instructions like proceed to the nearest exit point, proceed to the end of the harbour, woo, woo, woo. transhumanism, if you like, the robotic stance of people who have been microchipped in this particular story. Remember, I'm into sci-fi. This is my plot in my story. And I was also interested watching people go by while I was sitting at our store. And there was a lady who was pushing, very elderly lady in a wheelchair, probably her mother. But the lady in the wheelchair looked like a dummy. It's like her soul has checked out or is checking out. Like she was just hollow. Anyway, God bless her. And may she have a safe trip to the next dimension when her name is called. I've been noticing one or two very gaslighty things as well. Now, I don't really read the mainstream media, but the other day I decided to do a little bit of doom scrolling on MSN, and there was a lot of articles on dementia. I don't know where these articles are coming from. Loads and loads of articles such as, oh, if you don't sleep very well, you could have dementia. If you forget to do something, you might have dementia. Gaslighting. Also, did you know that quite a lot of those on the front bench of the Labour Party happen to be members of the Fabian Society, as is, of course, Tony Blair. Now I will put on the screen their logo, and you will see that it is a wolf in sheep's clothing, which says a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on, folks, and as at Glamorous Lioness said, we're going into the eye of the storm. It's interesting as well that she'd been talking about chess games, and the pair of us had discussions about chess games. That's what life is like. It's like a chess game, and there might be a stalemate at the moment, perhaps, but if we can keep cool heads, there might be a checkmate in our favour at some point. Once we've passed through the eye of the storm, things will start to get better. Of course, the French government has fallen, and now Marine Le Pen is looking to make a comeback. You'll remember that she was forbidden to have any part in Parliament for a period of 5 years. And her appeal case wasn't coming up until next year, but it looks like that she's garnering support to take government, which should be interesting. And various readers have predicted that she will form a government. She's a patient lady, whether or not you agree with her politics. This is the feminine, some might say divine feminine, in action. Remember, we are all light and shade, and it is not necessarily our job to judge, but to keep an open mind and see what happens. So cool heads and open hearts are what are needed right now. And the same goes for things in the UK. So just watch out, because we're getting quite a lot of distractions and we need to maintain some level of discernment. The next thing I want to show you is this little book. This is Blackpool History Tour. I bought it in June when Dan and I were in Blackpool. I got it from a shop in Cleveley's. It was second hand. Cleveley's is beyond Blackpool North. It's the posh end of Blackpool, I suppose you could say. You've got black and white pictures here. There's the North Pier. This tells you that it opened on the 21st of May 1863. It is the oldest of the three piers. There's the North Pier, the Central Pier, which at first was called the South Pier, and then the South Pier. The Central Pier was opened in 1868, and there's a family that owns all three piers, but they're selling the North Pier because it needs quite a lot of investment. Indeed, when Dan and I were there in June, they had been doing a little bit of work. They've been replacing some of the boards on the pier because they're a bit rickety to walk on, but it needs a lot of investment, so they've decided to put it up for sale so they can keep South and Central Pier and not lose the lot through overspending, I dare say. So there's Hull Road. This is Hull Road in the early 1900s, and you can see the old-fashioned clothing there. It's all cobbled. And then you've got the beach. There's the Blackpool Tower, or the Dirty Bird. I call Blackpool the Dirty Bird of the North. Jamie's Rock and Soul decided he would take it on board to use that term as well, but I don't really mind. And there's Chapel Street. We've got some of the old shops. That looks again to be quite early. That picture is taken in the 1920s. You can see there's a lady there wearing a cloche hat, which were very popular in the 1920s, although I do have a couple of cloche hats. There's a lady in Hastings who has a hat shop and she specialises in cloche hats. Most of my hats are men's hats, but I do have a couple of cloche hats and I really enjoy wearing them. So that's that book. And that was about, I think, £2, that book. And there's the big wheel from the Pleasure Beach, which has changed substantially as well over the decades. That used to be cheap to get into as well. I remember going on the ghost train with my nan and being absolutely petrified. And then finally, Interstellar. This, of course, is the name of a cult film, and it was scored by Hans Zimmer. And my piano teacher, Jake, wanted me to learn Interstellar. So Dan very kindly bought me the whole score. It was about £10.50 on Amazon. This is the main theme, Interstellar. It's quite tricky. It's really an orchestral works, but of course this has been scored for piano. It's quite a tricky one though, even though it's only a short piece, and it's very slow. Then there's other pieces in there. Mountains, I presume like space mountains. I'm really into space music. Of course I'm a galactic hybrid, and my frequency frequently interferes with technology. Time is quite a long piece. quite a few pages. And then Interstellar, this is the whole thing. And it's quite complex, so I'm learning that. It's a change from Ludovico Einaudi. I can see similarities between Einaudi and also Eric Satie. They're two of my favourite composers. I would say that the work of Hans Zimmer, certainly with this works, is a cross between the two of them. I think if Eric Satie had been around now, he died in 1926, but if he was around these days, he would have been a minimalist composer. It's a lovely piece anyway, and it will keep me occupied for quite a long time. And incidentally, before I go, I have bought a year's subscription to Sibelius, which of course is the notation software that composers use. Now, I've usually notated by hand, and then Dan has usually transferred my score to his Guitar Pro software so we can publish score. But it wasn't very successful for my Orion Sonata, in particular the choral piece, Siren Song. And I've still not published the score for that on Score Exchange. So I decided, oh well, I can afford it. We'll just get Sibelius, and it's cost me about £200 for a year. Now, a few years ago, Sibelius was £200 to buy outright, but it's rocketed. It's down almost £600, which is rather too much money. So I bought it on the year's subscription, and then if my position changes in a year and I can afford to pay for it outright, I will do so. So I will be still scoring by hand, but with Sibelius, I will be able to plug my laptop into the keyboard and play the piece out on the keyboard, and Sibelius will score it automatically. And I can add lots of different parts as well. I bought the ultimate version. The artist version was about £87, but I bought the ultimate version because I'm looking to do more orchestral pieces in the future, as I did with the Orion Sonata. So those are my things for today. Which one do you like? Do you like the seeds? Do you do gardening at all? What about the Avon makeup? Is this something you would use? It's certainly a good price. What about the little Blackpool book? And then what do you think of Interstellar? Anyway, let me know down in the comments. Please like if you enjoyed this video, and share. Please subscribe. Ding the notification bell. Ding, ding, ding. And I will see you soon for another video. Until then, bye for now.